Miss Stephanie. If you're tuning in live, happy Friday. We're going through the power to change. You guys were on the last chapter. Super exciting. And this chapter is all about your spiritual spoke. It really is
spiritual spoke.
Your spiritual spoke. So if you're...
Do you think people talk about this often?
No. Well, no. I feel like we do.
On a health and fitness page, on a keto community page. What?
All right. So as you're tuning in, tell us where you're tuning in from. We're tuning in from Minnesota, where it is going to snow. It's so great. We prayed for the rain.
The rain will just
it's
keep
storming, which actually, we actually need the rain. So we're all thankful. It's going to be a super great day. Tell us where you're tuning in from. And if you've missed all of the other lives that we've done, go to ketomomsecrets.com and click on book club and you can watch them. We're going to wrap up this chapter here super soon. We're going to go through 5.1, 5.2, because you can't go through them not together. I think it's super important.
For sure. You can also listen to it on the podcast or go to YouTube as well, because it is there too.
Podcast is KetoMom Secrets. All right. This chapter is called, we would say this is a swear word in our home.
It is true, because you have to bury the apostrophe T.
So I can't. I hate that. And anytime he hears one of our kids say that, he's like, take that out of your vocabulary. So the first chapter is called I Can't. We're going to actually team it up with the next chapter called But God Can.
Oh, yeah.
And so we really, this entire, the whole from chapters 1 through 4, you've learned the power of who before the do. You've learned the power of habits and discipline. And now this is the last part of it. And it starts with an interesting story. And I can't believe the story is real.
It is a real story. So I remember it was actually 8 years ago today. Stephanie was scrolling through her memories and she posted this. Maybe you should post this later, but it talked about sitting on the pity potty. And so how often in my life do I find myself sitting on the pity potty because of negative attitude, negative language? I just keep making mistakes, blah, 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 blah. Like fill in the blank, whatever reason is, I would sit on the pity potty. And then she would tell me, get off the pity potty. Right? Well, here's the story in the book. You all right?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't sure if that was like a dramatic entrance or...
Nope, sneezing.
So in this story, this is unreal what happened.
If you have the book, you've read it. Weird.
There's a lady, and she decides she just wants to sit on the pity potty. She sits on the toilet.
In Kansas,
out of all places.
I don't know.
For 2 years, she decides to sit on the toilet.
Sat on the toilet for 2 years.
I don't know how it all started. You can go Google the actual story. But she sat on the toilet for 2 years, and this is where it gets really disgusting. Her skin actually grew to the toilet seat. Her husband would bring her food.
Happy Friday.
Happy Monday. Happy Tuesday. Here's your lunch. Here's your dinner. Maybe she was intermittent fasting for extended periods of time. I'm not sure. But she decided...
It's a real story. You can go look it up.
Just to sit on the toilet for 2 years. Her skin grew to the toilet seat. And they had to call in the emergency room. They had to call in...
No, they called the sheriff.
They called in the sheriff. They called in the ambulance. I'm sure Stephanie's dad showed up and he had to... Just imagine. I mean, don't. Maybe not. I mean, the smells...
No, don't.
It just would be horrendous. But I want to tie that story in with the pity potty. And the reality is sometimes we're just sitting too long. Sometimes we're just sitting way too long. And I want to encourage you to get up off the pity potty, get up off the toilet, go for it.
No, I think that's
I don't know really how to go from there.
Well,
other than just don't sit on the toilet for 2 years.
Well, yeah. Here's the point is they would say, why don't you come out of the bathroom? Every single day her boyfriend would say, come out of the bathroom. And she would say, maybe tomorrow. Hey, maybe tomorrow I will. Maybe tomorrow. And Craig says this in his book. He goes, you know what? He goes, I was thinking about it and I was thinking, and maybe you were thinking the same thing. Like, what? Why would she do that? That's crazy. Like nobody would ever do that. And then he thought to himself, he goes, why didn't she just get up? And then he says, I realized that maybe her situation seems crazy, but where have you not got up in your life? Where have you been making the excuse of maybe tomorrow, right? Why I won't do something. He goes, you see it when people give up on their marriage, they give up on their health. He tells a ton of stories. We're not going to read it to you, but he basically says this. He goes, when we put the what before the who, or the do before the who, when we try instead of train, when we hope for change instead of actually starting, instead of doing the action, when we sit there and just hope that something's going to happen, but not put the action towards it, and then we do occasionally what other people do intentionally or consistently, we stay stuck because we rely on willpower instead of God's power. That's this whole chapter.
It's so good. I mean, it makes me think today's March 31st for those of you who are tuning in live right now. If you're watching the replay, it could be a different day. But the reality is today is the last day of March. And most often people will say, well, I'll just start tomorrow because tomorrow is a brand new month. It's the first of the month. I want to encourage you, today's the day to start. And today's the day to actually realize that maybe by yourself you can't do it, but with God's power, all things are possible. So those 4 things that Stephanie talked about, if you didn't write those down, I would encourage you, watch the replay, write those things down, because they're powerful thoughts that are going to truly impact the trajectory and the movement in your life.
So he says willpower it's a limited resource. He tells a ton of stories of, for example, this might resonate with you. You're at the office. It's a Friday and it's a donut day. And all of a sudden the donuts are in the employee lounge. And at first you have the willpower. You're like, I've done great all week. You walk past the donuts, not a big deal. You walk past the donuts an hour later and you're like, I've got this. It's totally fine. Mm-hmm. A third time you're like, oh, they're still there. It's chocolate with sprinkles. Fourth time you're like, you know what? I think if I eat a half a donut, it's not a big deal. It's half the sugar.
I've done so good all week.
Totally fine. So you do the half. What happens when you do the half? Your body thinks, oh my goodness, I don't want just 1, I want 5. You go back later near the end of the day, the half is still sitting there and you're like, I can't waste it. That would be poor stewardship.
Anybody relate
and then
to
you
this?
Eat it, right? So he's talking about the power, like your willpower. And so
it's like a battery. It just starts draining.
Right. And he goes, you can't do this by yourself. That's why it's so important to make sure that you either 1, listen to, read, or go back to the beginning of the book when it talks about the who before the do, because if you don't have a powerful enough who of who you're becoming, the do is going to run out.
Right.
Your willpower by yourself is going to run out. And so we were like, we're not going to end this chapter on I can't. We're just going to go right into the next one that says, but God can, and how he can physically help you. Of course, he tells you tons of stories, but if you don't have a spiritual spoke, if you don't have a spiritual mentor, if you're not part of a spiritual community, I don't even know if I love that word spiritual. Like, we have great friends. We have the same beliefs. We go to church. I mean, there's just things that we do to help our spiritual spoke stay strong.
Right. I would agree wholeheartedly. I would say you got to get this book.
Right.
You have to get this book. Remember that by yourself, it's going to be really challenging. Can you do it? Sure. You can do it for a period of time. Eventually, willpower will run out.
Right.
What we've just noticed, and just based upon a few of the things that we've implemented since starting this book a month and a half ago.
It's been a while.
I have been delivered from sugar.
Right.
Spiritual spoke has kicked in. I've tried all the other things in the past over the last 18 years. It's interesting. My mom came out here yesterday and she was kind of talking about growing up, all the Kool-Aid that I used to drink, all the sugar and the cookies and just all the stuff that I used to eat all the time. And it dawned on me, I thought, you want to know why it's been probably such a challenge for my entire adulthood of attempting to like not eat sugar every day, all the time? It's because it's been ingrained in me since I was a baby.
Right.
It's like free crack, right? And it seems to be like a healthier version of it. But the reality is, because of this book and because I've allowed God to transform my mind, because I've allowed God to work through my lack of willpower by pre-deciding, by understanding who I am before I start doing all these different behavior modifications, I've overcome sugar.
Right.
And so I want that, and I hope that can be an encouragement to you.
That's great.
And that's just one area in the great facet of your life. There's lots of areas that you get to win in. And just because I've been delivered from sugar doesn't mean I'm on like the perfect health trajectory. There's the next step that I get to work on. And that's what's so great about life, is that life is a journey. It's not this overnight thing that just all of a sudden, you've arrived, like when the GPS tells you made it to your location.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. Every day is an opportunity to grow. Every day is an opportunity to become a better and bigger, best version of yourself. But you've got to step into that greatness. And I would just encourage you, if you've been trying to do this by yourself, it's because you've been trying. It's time to start training. And when you start training with God's power, I'm telling you, it's a whole nother level. So if you're brand new here, we'd love to know your goals. We'd love to know why you're here. Comment new down below. If you've never checked out this book or the message series, there's a 6-part message series. Comment message down below. We'd love to send that to you because it's a free gift that I promise you, if you learn it, if you listen and you apply it,
it's really good.
The best will be yet to come.
Really? Sure. We're just going to say, but you can't, but God can. That's the power of these 2 chapters. And so I would encourage you to listen to the messages because they're incredible. Grab the book, listen to the Audible, continue to tune in here, reach out with questions. We're always here to help. And we hope you have an absolutely amazing day. And we'll talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Bye, bro.